nous passons à notre ami Alexandre Omo Kodo Tsado. Merci. À vous la parole.
Thank you very much. If you permit me, I will actually speak through some slides I put together. I will come and open it up. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. They say, well, where I come from, they say that you only get an opportunity to speak in front of this great a crowd twice in your career. The first time when you're on the way up, and then when you're on the way down. So it's great to be back here. Well, that's more of a joke. I've never actually been able to speak in front of a distinguished crowd like this, and so I'm incredibly honored. In our midst, we have heads of federations, continental federations. We have representatives of governments of different African countries, delegates from over 50 countries in Africa, all invited by Mr. Nasser, under the auspices of His Excellency, the President of Egypt, and head of the African Union in 2019, President Sisi. I am very honored to be here, and I promise to do my best to share my learnings with you. So I've been invited to come because of two of the hats that I wear. Thank you very much. Two hats that I wear from NVIDIA and Alliance for Africa's Intelligence. NVIDIA is the company with the largest, most adopted platform for artificial intelligence in the world. And over there, I drive cloud computing. Pretty much my mission there is to put the most powerful technologies and tools in the hands of innovators everywhere in the world so that they can keep creating solutions that solve problems. With Alliance for Africa's Intelligence, that is the largest community of people doing artificial intelligence, AI, in Africa. And so please, if you're not part of it already, you should join that community. I'll tell you more about it later, especially as it relates to the topic we have here, which is sports in Africa and taking corruption out of that. I'm also Nigerian. I am very Pan-African, and I'm also a huge lover of sports. And so let's talk more about sports. On the picture there is Amadou Gallo. He is the vice president of NBA. The NBA from America has chosen to now have an Africa branch, and Amadou is one of those who's driving this process. And so he has said that everybody is an athlete, right? What are the characteristics of athletes, and do you agree that you're an athlete? There's so many words that I use to describe athletes, from focus to commitment to competitiveness, adaptability. I mean, I don't know, do you recognize any of the words on the slide as being something you see for yourself? If you do, then you're an athlete. As one of the earlier presentations today, I think Gianni Mello mentioned that sports can be used to instill strong values in people and help them come together. And so this is one of the strong reasons why we should protect sports in Africa, in Egypt, and the rest parts of the world. Well, this is an old photo I found this morning only, actually, from one of the first times I started to learn how to pick up values that now guide me through the rest of my work. Right? This was when I was in college at Columbia University, where there were very few Africans there in New York at the time. It was my great friend here, Jose, from Cape Verde, Yasser Diab, my best friend at the time from Sudan, and also Maurice from Sudan. And then we convinced everyone else that they're African too, especially because, in my view, everybody in the world is either an African or an African export. And so they've joined us. And together, we weren't necessarily the strongest team in the school when we came together, but we started to identify each other's personalities, each other's weaknesses, each other's strengths, and start to put together a strong team. For example, Maurice over here, he's one of the strongest people I know. He runs through like a bull through the middle of the park and carries the team with him. Jose, you can think of him as the Ronaldo of the squad. He always loves to run really fast and scores a lot of goals. My friend Xi Shenjun from China, or like I say, he's African too. He loves to dive for balls, and we let him do that. So he became our makeshift goalkeeper. And together, we're able to find that strength together as a team, as a bond, and win. We actually won the intramural championships for 2 years running, even though we were just kids who were engineers and different roles. And we ended up beating the varsity team of the school by working together and leveraging our values. And so, like Engineer Khalid mentioned earlier on in his talk as well, sports is this brilliant tool that brings us together, right? It really does help bring the community together, all of Africa. I mean, if you remember any World Cup, any soccer or football World Cup, you find that Africans from all countries will support one another when we're on the big stage. In fact, even in my home, my mom never likes football, right? She just wants to watch the Nigerian home videos. That's her thing. But when it comes to the World Cup and Nigeria is playing, or any African country is playing, she is there and she's going to watch. For example, I remember in 1996, 6 a.m. in the morning, I was woken up by her screaming, running around, and this was to find out that Nigeria had won the Olympic Games, and this was great. So these are some of the reasons why we really have to protect sports, as it's an important guide of ethical framework of the society. We have to protect it from forces like corruption, be it in the offices that organize sports activity or on the field. Today in my talk, I would like to focus more on the field and talk about the players and the crowd, and not so much on the offices, as most of my other colleagues have touched on those type of parts of corruption. In fact, there's a quote that I like. I actually wrote it down, so I'll read it for you. It is, so corruption stems from a place of desire to win. Hence, the key to eradicating corruption doesn't lie only in transparency and eliminating all the bad eggs per se, but in providing clean opportunities and alternatives for success so that the eggs don't go bad in the first place. So yeah, this is a quote I like because I wrote it myself this morning. So given that, I would love to be able to share some some examples of how we can create better opportunities for our players, for our coaches, for everyone involved in sports, so they don't have to look at corruption as the way to excel. We are all athletes and we all want to win, and there are other ways to do it. Technology is one of the important ways, artificial intelligence particularly, and let's take a little tour around the world to see how the world has been applying this important technology to the world of sports. So there will be some videos that will play in silent, and I will just explain what is happening. For example, over here, if you think about the rules, you can use technology and AI to protect the rules of the game. And in this case, they are tracking the 3-pointers in basketball, and so they can know exactly when the player has made a 3-point. You can also use it for the players. They wear sensors in their shoes or their wrist, and it can track how they play and help them improve, right? Or even for the viewers, you can get real-time analytics with some glasses that you can put on, and it will help you really understand and engage and be entertained better, right? There's a second video that's pretty similar, but a different game, where you see in football, you're all probably familiar with the goal line technology, right? Even in Africa, I think we're using this as well. And then the new VAR, right? If you watch the English Premier League, you would see how everyone is now talking about the VAR. Where the players, it can track the health of the player and let you know exactly when it's time to take a rest or to move forward. And in the field of journalism as well, artificial intelligence is very important to help automate the process of creating articles and media to entertain the audience. These are just a few examples, and I would go ahead and sort of summarize for you. There are many ways artificial intelligence can help improve outcomes in sports and help you excel and win and not look to corruption. There are 4 key I break it down into 4 key stakeholders, from the journalists to the authorities, the players, and the coach, right? In the field of journalism, like you saw, it can help you automate media creation. You could think of a small media team of 5 to 10 people being able to cover sporting in an entire country or an entire continent, because they have, they can just pick up the videos from all of these places, automatically identify the highlights, and automatically spin out articles, which they will obviously then cross-check and ensure it's been written properly and ship it out. That there reduces a lot of cost and allows a small team to do a lot more without having to employ thousands of people to go around the entire country or the continent to cover it. When you look at authorities, this is about, just like we saw, upholding the rules of the game, right? Tracking when, in football, tracking when the ball has crossed the goal line so nobody can argue, although we still argue when we see the replay. But yes, to track that the ball has gone across the line. And now you have a lot more people agreeing that, it wasn't false, it wasn't bribery, but it was the truth, because you've tracked it with technology. On the side of, and if you want to just touch a little bit on the offices, when you bring in more technology, you start and digitize information, you start to make things a bit more transparent, right? And so you start to make things more transparent in the office and increase efficiency, make people work faster, and that reduces opportunities for corruption. On the side of a player, I see My Africa as a place of do-it-yourself first, where we're not necessarily blessed with the thousands and the most number of teachers or coaches. So for the most part, we typically start by reading on our own and learning on our own, right? So these days, with the help of the phones that is in everyone's hands, you can install some artificial intelligence apps on your phone that would help you become a much better player. For example, it can take videos of, say, you're a tennis player, and every time as you hit the racket, the video tracks your motion and tells you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. That way, you're able to self-teach, and then eventually, when you've reached a certain level, you can then start to go to your coach, right? And so now we'll move to the coach. The coach is the mastermind of the team, looking to understand each and every piece of his or her team so they can place them correctly. With artificial intelligence, you can better track your players, have deeper insights into who is good at what and who isn't, and figure out how to move your teams around. This, we've seen a lot of applications around the world, and it would be great as if we adopt it more within Africa. So, this artificial intelligence I'm talking about, what exactly is it? We've heard many different explanations. Most people think about robotics, running around, chasing us or trying to take our jobs, but those are very, very far from what artificial intelligence is. Artificial intelligence is only a tool that helps you see the world clearer and creates a lot of jobs, actually. Very, very different. I'll use a very simple, small example of the coach. I like the coaches. Say, you're a coach, you just joined a new team, and you want to really understand that team. Say this team has stored a lot of videos, 100 hours of videos for a very long time. It will take you a while to watch all those videos and try to understand how that team has been performing. But with the help of artificial intelligence, you can have all this, images or the words and the sound. You can process it through the artificial intelligence in the middle, which should then, through trials and corrections and all of that, it will eventually learn what is within this 100 videos that you have. And at the end of it, it will recognize patterns. It will contextualize them, put them within, what those patterns mean, and eventually start giving you predictions on what is within the video. This is what artificial intelligence can do. It helps you look through history a lot faster, and that will improve the way you make decisions. So you're not just guessing, but you're correct most of the time. And so, this is my favorite player. I believe some people in the room might know who this is. He's Mohamed Salah. He's my favorite player because Liverpool is my favorite club, my favorite team, and there's times when we lose. Without artificial intelligence, I am afraid we will not win because the rest of the world is already using this technology. We have to find our way, our own way to adopt it. Just an example, I was reading an article the other day of how SAP was able to work with the German team for the Football World Cup. And through analytics, advanced analytics, they were able to improve the effectiveness of their coaching and of each player. You can imagine checking to know when a player has eaten enough food or drank enough water and how that affects the game. We need to be able to understand and analyze things at these levels if we want to go really far. And the truth is, we can't do it. So these are the ingredients I see if you want to win with artificial intelligence. It's about powerful computers, very powerful computers. It's about, if I was to explain that a bit, I talked about 100 hours of video. If you use a weak computer to watch those videos, to process those videos, it could take you 3 months to watch them. But if you use a powerful computer like NVIDIA GPUs, which is the company I work for, you can move from watching it in 3 months to doing it in 3 days or a few hours, depending on how many of these GPUs you put together. So without powerful computers, which is what a lot of our scientists in Africa are facing today. You have very smart scientists and professors in your universities, but today they don't have these tools to be able to apply their knowledge to compete with the rest of the world. So we need those. And then it's to even move from the smart teachers to smart students and train more people. There are new innovative ways we can employ to expanding the number of people that are getting trained in important technologies. And Alliance for Africa's Intelligence can help with this. I'll share more later. And then finally, when you have these two things together, you have to put them in an environment where they will excel, right? It's in policy, it's in helping with the taxes, because we know that these people, these innovators, are incredibly important to helping increase the revenue, increase the experience, reduce corruption. We have to really work together to create that innovative environment for them. And so, to come closer to the close of my talk, just touch a bit again on, Alliance for AI. It is the largest community of AI developers and innovators in Africa. And if we were to summarize some of the things we do, we've got a database, we provide advisory, some learning content, and a few special projects we identify will be useful to the community. On the database side, you can go on Alliance for AI today and find a list of training programs that are close to you and see. I think someone asked about blockchain earlier on and how we can train our people. There are some schools that are teaching this, but really it's mostly training programs and vocational centers before the actual universities catch up. And so we try and find those and provide that. We try to put some content together ourselves also, but I'm sure with the support of people in the room, we can create even more content. So please talk with me later if that's something you're interested in. And on the advisory side, we go out of our way to try and find the smartest Africans within Africa and also in the diaspora. You will agree, Africans are incredibly intelligent and work for some of the best companies in the world. We can leverage their knowledge to help us make better decisions. And so within Alliance for AI, we do go around the world to find these Africans in the diaspora and form this advisory body where we start to talk with organizations like the Africa Union and some other African country governments to talk about decisions like applying artificial intelligence. What does it mean? How do they understand it better? What infrastructure do they need? And what kind of ethical decisions do they need to think about? So these are some of the things we work on, and you can obviously go check the website for some more or follow us on the social. And within Egypt, I got very impressed. We did a scan of Egypt to find, the artificial intelligence companies here. You do have many more than those 5, but I got very excited by them. I put them up here to inspire people to go check them out and see what they're doing. They're very inspiring. And let's learn from them. And even, I'm not entirely sure any of them is applying their information to sports, but we should, if they're not, work with them or even create more of these companies. And when you do, we should add it to the Alliance for AI list as well. To close the talk, finally, a Lightboard moment. We're thinking through, I've heard so much over the past 2 days about some of the phenomenal work of everyone in the room. I started to think, how can I call on you, my African sisters and brothers, to work together to create what I've been thinking of. It's called, a center of excellence and innovation for the application of AI in sports. How can we do this? Well, we'll create chapters within each of your countries and work together to provide those elements of powerful computers, incredible talent, and favorable environment to grow. We should all think about this, especially, what's a better organization to orchestrate this than, the OXA and also ANOCA here, given their reach across the entire continent. And it could be one of the projects of Alliance for AI. So this is a food for thought for everyone in the audience. And with that, I will say, I would close and let the rest of our panelists come up here, but just say I'm very inspired to be here in front of Egypt where the pyramids started. And so just like from the time of the pyramids, let's continue to expand the intelligence of Egypt to the rest of the world as we continue to grow. Thank you very much.
Merci Alexandre de cette présentation que j'espère va être très utile et très intéressante pour nos amis tous présents ici et pour tous les pays africains, j'espère, et qu'on va profiter pour améliorer la bonne gouvernance du sport en Afrique.